A cataclysmic explosion shattered the silence of the cosmos, igniting a deadly ballet of fire and debris. Commander Arya Nova's pulse thundered as the hospital ship's incandescent ruins spiraled against the void, a blazing omen of chaos. Grief and unyielding resolve fused in her eyes, each shattered fragment of light screaming that the fragile peace was forever broken, and a relentless war had just been unleashed. In the depths of the Orion sector in 2475, the void was never truly silent. Yet on this fateful day, silence had been violently torn asunder. Commander Arya Nova stood on the bridge of her flagship, her gaze fixed on the panoramic viewport where the smoldering remains of the hospital ship hung like a ghost against a backdrop of distant stars. The lingering stench of scorched metal and ionized plasma mixed with the cold sterility of space, a sensory assault that made her stomach churn and her hands tighten on the controls. Every alarm on the ship pulsed like a warning heartbeat. Nova's mind raced through memories of past losses, each recollection a burning ember of sorrow that now fueled her resolve. The once hallowed corridors of the medical vessel, where lives had been saved and hope had been nurtured, were now twisted relics of unanticipated brutality. In that moment, the weight of responsibility pressed upon her shoulders like the gravitational pull of a black hole. Her crew moved in a synchrony born of decades of service, their voices a subdued murmur of shock and urgent commands. "Commander, sensors confirm multiple secondary explosions," reported Lieutenant Merrick, his voice tight with tension. Nova's jaw set in silent determination as she absorbed the data, a clear message that the enemy had chosen to shatter not just a vessel, but the very ideals of compassion and sanctuary. The vibrant neon hues of distant nebulae provided a stark contrast to the dark void where the hospital ship had once sailed proudly. As debris scattered in a chaotic dance, every flash of ignited metal and burst of energy etched into Nova's mind a vivid picture of loss. In that moment, with each sensory detail etched into the silence of space, Commander Nova understood that this was not merely an attack, it was a declaration. Humanity's long-held pledge of mercy was under siege, and she was forced to confront the brutal reality that the cost of defending that pledge might be more than she was ever willing to sacrifice. Her heart pounded not only with fear but with an unspoken promise. She would stand between the innocent and the encroaching storm, no matter the personal cost. Amid the cacophony of alerts and the spectral glow of distant stars, a single, unwavering thought emerged. This shattered peace was the spark that would ignite a war, and she would lead humanity into the fray. In the wake of the devastating attack, the corridors of the flagship throbbed with urgency. Every console blinked with frantic red alerts as Commander Arya Nova surveyed the unfolding crisis from the bridge, a nerve center of shifting lights, crisp voices, and the steady hum of engines. The once serene order of Space Command had been replaced by a raw, palpable tension. Officers moved swiftly along the passageways, their footsteps echoing in the vast metallic belly of the ship, each stride underscored by the somber knowledge that every second counted. Arya stood before a massive holomap displaying the Orion sector's chaotic constellation of explosions and emergency beacons. The visual was an unyielding reminder of the shattered peace, a mosaic of devastation and uncertainty. "All units, prepare for immediate deployment," her voice rang out, calm yet laced with an intensity born from deep personal resolve. Her words resonated against the cold, metallic walls, uniting a crew whose collective heartbeat now matched the staccato rhythm of war. The war fleet's mobilization was a spectacle of precision and raw power. Across the expansive deck, crew members readied their stations, adjusting navigation arrays, calibrating weapon systems, and transmitting rapid-fire orders. Each command was met with a determined response, but behind every curt reply lay the unspoken fear of the unknown. The stark fluorescent lights above reflected off the polished surfaces of control panels, creating a relentless glare that mirrored the inner fire of every soul on board. Amid the orchestrated chaos, Lieutenant Merrick approached Nova, his eyes revealing both worry and unwavering loyalty. "Commander, enemy signatures are emerging from all directions. They're not just scattering randomly, they're coordinating. We have a formation forming along the nebular edge," he reported, his tone meticulous and precise. Nova's jaw tightened as she absorbed the critical intelligence, the weight of each data point fueling her resolve. She knew that this moment would test not only her tactical acumen but also her commitment to the values she swore to protect. In a quiet corner of the command deck, Nova retreated briefly to confront the silent storm raging within her. The ghosts of past battles, loved ones lost, dreams shattered, whispered reminders of the cost of leadership. The memory of the hospital ship's demise etched itself into her mind, a searing image of innocence violated. Yet amid the surge of grief, there blossomed an unyielding determination. Nova recalled the promise she made in the quiet moments after the attack, to shield the innocent, no matter the sacrifice required. Back on the main bridge, orders were relayed with mechanical precision as the fleet initiated its battle stations. The sound of rapid key taps, the crisp clack of switches, and the distant rumble of engines prepared for warp filled the air, a symphony of impending conflict. The crew's faces, lit intermittently by the soft glow of displays, were etched with a blend of dread and defiant hope. Each individual, from the highest-ranking officer to the freshest recruit, shared a common understanding. Humanity's future now depended on the decisions made in this charged moment. Nova's steady gaze swept across her team, resilient, battle-scarred, and united in purpose. With the weight of history and hope anchoring her spirit, she reaffirmed her command. "We stand at the edge of a war that will define us," she declared, her voice resonant with both sorrow and fierce determination. "Let our actions honor every sacrifice, and let our resolve be the shield for those who cannot fight." In that moment, the flagship transformed into an unyielding bastion of human will, a calling to arms that would set the stage for the battles yet to come. In the quiet aftermath of mobilization, the corridors of the flagship resonated with uneasy murmurs. The initial shock of the hospital ship's destruction had given way to a pervasive undercurrent of mistrust. As the crew prepared for the looming confrontation, whispered conversations and shadowed alcoves spoke of unseen forces and hidden agendas. The once unifying call to arms now stirred internal divisions, each officer wrestling with the burden of conflicting loyalties and the haunting memory of shattered innocence. In a cramped conference room behind a wall of flickering holographic displays, senior officers gathered for an emergency strategy session. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Lieutenant Merrick's usually precise tone faltered as he detailed emerging intelligence. "There are signals, subtle yet deliberate, that hint at coordinated maneuvers beyond our known adversaries." His words hung in the air like dark omens, fueling suspicions that the attack on the hospital ship was only the beginning of a more intricate betrayal. Commander Nova, seated at the head of the table, surveyed the room with a blend of steely resolve and palpable sorrow. The weight of command pressed upon her as she absorbed the implications of the intelligence. "We must consider every possibility," she urged softly, her eyes locking with those of her trusted officers. "Diplomacy has failed us. Hidden fissures now threaten to split our alliance. If we do not confront these echoes of betrayal, our unity will crumble, leaving us vulnerable to enemies both seen and unseen." Outside the confines of the meeting room, heated debates broke out among the ranks. In a secluded section of the command deck, two officers clashed over the origins of the attack. "It wasn't a rogue act. Someone orchestrated this to undermine our faith in each other," one argued, his voice rising in fervor. "But who would benefit from tearing us apart?" countered another, his tone laced with a mix of anger and disbelief. The discord was not just a clash of opinions. It was a manifestation of deep-seated wounds that had yet to heal, scars left by past betrayals and broken promises. As the discussion spilled into the open corridors, Nova could hear the reverberations of suspicion even through the rigid clanks of metal floors and the steady hum of the ship's systems. Each conversation, every furtive glance and hushed tone, added to the growing chorus of uncertainty, a dangerous symphony that threatened to shatter the already fragile alliance of her fleet. The strategic calm was dissolving into chaos, and the enemy was not only outside the hull of their flagship but also embedded in the very fabric of their unity. In the midst of the turmoil, distant transmissions intercepted from deep space hinted at a relentless adversary, a shadowy presence that blurred the line between justice and vengeance. This specter, known only through cryptic code names and half-whispered rumors, promised a war that was as ideological as it was physical. Its influence seeped into the fabric of the fleet's command structure, amplifying doubts and fanning the flames of discontent. Standing at the viewport, Nova watched as the stars outside pulsed with cold indifference. The betrayal echoed through the corridors of her mind, intertwining with the personal loss etched into her soul. In that moment, the unity she had strived to protect seemed perilously fragile. The battle was no longer solely against an external enemy. It had become a fight to salvage trust and loyalty within her own ranks, a struggle to hold together the very ideals that defined humanity's hope among the stars. In the cold expanse of the renegade flagship, shadows danced across brushed metal walls as if in silent worship of a singular, unforgiving truth. Commander Sarath Orion sat in his command chamber, a sanctum of minimalistic design and steely precision, his eyes fixed on the swirling holograms of star systems and enemy formations. Each flickering light and shifting data point reflected the calculated clarity with which he viewed the cosmos, a realm where only strength and ruthless resolve could impose order. Saratha's expression was an unyielding mask of determination, etched with the scars of countless battles and hardened by years of unremitting discipline. Around him, the ambient hum of advanced technology intermingled with the quiet cadence of his measured breaths. In that stark silence, he contemplated the events that had ignited the spark of war. To him, the brutal assault on the hospital ship was not a senseless act of violence. It was a necessary provocation, a demonstration that mercy was a luxury unafforded in the relentless calculus of cosmic survival. The chamber's walls, adorned with strategic schematics and emblems of the Iron Covenant, seemed to pulse with the weight of destiny. Saratha's fingers glided over a holographic interface, meticulously plotting trajectories and forecasting potential moves in the looming battle. His mind worked like a finely tuned instrument, dissecting every variable with cold logic. In his world, passion was a liability, and every decision was made with the precision of a surgeon, calculated, detached, and unburdened by the messy tendrils of emotion. A low, resonant voice broke the silence as his chief strategist, Commander Varen, stepped forward. "Commander Orion, our sensors confirm a rapid assembly of Earth's fleet along the nebular frontier. Their mobilization is swift, but predictable." His tone was respectful yet subdued, mirroring the unspoken hierarchy that permeated the room. Saratha's gaze shifted, and for a moment, the holographic map illuminated a subtle hint of ambition in his eyes. "Predictability is our greatest asset," he replied in a measured cadence. "They act from emotion, reactive and impetuous. In contrast, we hold the advantage of calculated foresight. Their despair is already written into their strategies." His words, deliberate and devoid of remorse, resonated with the stark philosophy that had long guided his command. In the theater of war, compassion was a vulnerability, and sacrifice, however brutal, was the price of order. Beyond the fortified walls of his vessel, the cosmic void sprawled out like an endless tapestry of indifferent stars and swirling nebulae. Sarath often found solace in these vistas, seeing in them the unyielding march of time and the inevitability of destiny. As he observed a distant supernova flare, its transient burst of light a reminder of both creation and destruction, he allowed himself a rare moment of introspection. The chaos unfolding in the Orion sector was not merely a clash of fleets, it was a battle for the very soul of humanity, a contest between fleeting sentiment and the unassailable logic of survival. His mind wandered briefly to the legacy he wished to imprint upon the galaxy, a vision of a universe forged in the crucible of strength and tempered by the cold, unyielding fire of determination. Every calculated maneuver, every deliberate order, was a step toward a future where order reigned supreme over the chaos of sentimentality. Saratha's conviction was absolute. Only through uncompromising resolve could a civilization survive the brutal truths of an indifferent universe. As preparations for the impending confrontation intensified, Sarath summoned his most trusted lieutenants into the chamber. In a concise, almost clinical briefing, he delineated the next phase of their operation. His voice, resonant and unwavering, cut through the tension like a scalpel, assigning roles and refining contingencies with precise clarity. Each command was delivered with the cold efficiency of a man who believed that destiny was shaped by unerring purpose rather than transient emotion. In that moment, the ideological chasm between him and the impassioned defenders of Earth became starkly apparent. Where Commander Arya Nova clung to the remnants of hope and human compassion, Sarath Orion embraced a vision of order achieved through unyielding strength and relentless logic. This was not mere difference in strategy, it was a fundamental divergence in the understanding of what it meant to lead in a universe where survival was the only currency of truth. As the dark horizons of space loomed ever closer, Sarath's heart, if it could be said to possess one, beat in rhythm with the cold march of inevitability. Every decision, every calculated risk, propelled his fleet closer to a confrontation that would not only determine the fate of the Orion sector, but also the very essence of human destiny. In the quiet sanctum of his command, surrounded by the hum of technology and the unyielding gaze of distant stars, Commander Sarath Orion steeled himself for the battle to come, convinced that in the crucible of war, only the unyielding prevail. The void erupted into a dazzling maelstrom as war broke out at the nebular frontier. In an instant, the calm of space was obliterated by the relentless barrage of laser fire and ionized plasma. Commander Arya Nova's eyes widened as she watched the enemy fleet surge forward, their warships emerging like spectral phantoms against the swirling chaos of a nearby wormhole gateway. Every sensor blip and burst of energy was a violent note in the symphony of combat, echoing through the silent vacuum. On the bridge of her flagship, Nova's steady hands danced over control panels, her heartbeat syncing with the rapid-fire alerts that filled the room. The vibrant tapestry of battle unfolded across holographic displays, a sprawling map of interstellar maneuvers and radiant trajectories. She could almost feel the heat of the energy beams as they seared through the darkness, each flash etching itself into the annals of a war that threatened to consume everything. The rhythmic thump of the ship's engines and the crisp, metallic clatter of crew members preparing for evasive action underscored the urgency of their situation. Across the cosmic expanse, Commander Sarath Orion surveyed the unfolding carnage from his own command center. His gaze was fixed on a colossal projection of enemy formations and potential weak points in the enemy's strategy. The cold logic that defined him appreciated the predictable patterns of Nova's fleet, ordered yet impulsive. With a measured tone that brooked no dissent, he issued commands to reposition his vessels, exploiting the gravitational distortions near the wormhole to gain tactical advantage. Each directive was as calculated as the measured pulse of distant quasars, and his lieutenants responded with a precision that belied the chaos beyond their screens. In the heart of the battle, individual ships danced a deadly ballet. Nova's flagship was thrust into the fray, weaving between blazing streams of energy while her crew executed emergency protocols with practiced efficiency. A nearby frigate, its hull scarred by previous engagements, shuddered under the onslaught of enemy fire. The concussive booms of exploding vessels reverberated like thunder across the cosmic arena, punctuating the silent fury of a battle fought in the cold embrace of space. Amid this turmoil, Nova's mind raced with tactical calculations, a desperate need to preserve the lives of her crew while stalling an enemy that showed no mercy. The sensory overload was almost unbearable. Bright bursts of blue and red light exploded against the infinite black, while the acrid tang of ionized metal and scorched circuitry permeated the air inside the flagship. Crew members exchanged terse, urgent communications, shields at 80%. Evasive maneuvers, now. The tension was palpable, every word carrying the weight of survival. Nova's focus never wavered, her resolve steeled by the knowledge that every decision could be the difference between salvation and total annihilation. In a fleeting moment of clarity amid the chaos, Nova's thoughts shifted to the innocent lives depending on her command. The memory of the fallen hospital ship surged like a tidal wave, fueling her determination. For every life lost, we must fight with every fiber of our being, she murmured under her breath, a silent vow that resonated in the midst of carnage. With that, she recalibrated the flagship's energy shields and redirected a barrage of countermeasures toward an approaching enemy cruiser. The resulting explosion sent shockwaves across the bridge, a stark reminder of the brutal stakes at hand. On Sarath's side, the atmosphere was no less intense, albeit tempered by his unyielding calm. His strategy hinged on exploiting the enemy's emotional vulnerabilities, capitalizing on the impulse that had driven Nova's fleet to battle. With deliberate precision, he ordered a pincer maneuver designed to corral a portion of the enemy formation. "Initiate Protocol Vortex," he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of inevitable consequence. As his fleet repositioned in a coordinated surge, the enemy ships found themselves ensnared in a vortex of relentless fire and tactical genius. The battlefield became a living canvas of light and shadow, a swirling interplay of explosive brilliance and ominous darkness. Energy beams crisscrossed the void like lightning in a cosmic storm, while debris from shattered ships scattered like fragments of lost hope. Each collision, each burst of radiant fury, added another brushstroke to the grim portrait of interstellar warfare. In the midst of this orchestrated chaos, both fleets revealed their true natures. Nova's forces, driven by a fierce blend of duty and compassion, fought with a raw, unyielding passion. Sarath's contingent, in stark contrast, embodied the cold precision of a force determined to reshape the cosmos through calculated might. As the battle raged on, Nova's flagship veered dangerously close to a swirling mass of unstable cosmic matter, a turbulent region near the wormhole gateway where the fabric of space twisted into unpredictable shapes. Sensors warned of gravitational anomalies, but there was little time to retreat. With a quick, decisive command, Nova redirected the ship's course, narrowly avoiding a collision that could have spelled disaster. The maneuver, executed with both grace and desperation, was a testament to the skill and nerve of her crew under fire. In that instant, time seemed to slow as Nova's eyes locked onto the distant, burning core of the wormhole. It pulsed like a heart in the dark, a silent witness to the unfolding battle and a symbol of the unknown challenges that lay ahead. The interplay of hope and despair, of valor and ruthlessness, was encapsulated in that fiery nexus, a reminder that every victory on the battlefield came at an immeasurable cost. Amid the deafening symphony of combat, personal moments of reckoning emerged. A young ensign, barely out of training, gripped his console with trembling hands, his face illuminated by the flickering lights of the war. In a whispered prayer, he recalled the stories of heroes who had fought for peace, and his determination was renewed. Across the expanse, an officer in Saratha's fleet allowed himself a brief, almost imperceptible smile, a gesture that betrayed his own doubts about the price of order. The cosmic battlefield, with all its violence and splendor, served as a crucible for both hope and despair. It was a place where the clash of ideals and the thunder of war merged into a singular, inescapable truth. In the vast emptiness of space, every spark of life was worth defending, even as the universe threatened to engulf it in darkness. As energy blasts illuminated the void and shattered the silence, both Commander Nova and Commander Orion pressed on with their respective visions. The battle was far from over, its outcome uncertain, a relentless dance of destruction and resilience that would determine not only the fate of the Orion sector but also the very soul of humanity. The unyielding fury of battle had reached its zenith. Amidst the chaotic ballet of exploding starships and shimmering trails of energy, Commander Arya Nova stood in the heart of her flagship's bridge, where every light and sound was a testament to a war at its boiling point. The air vibrated with the frantic pulse of alarms and the metallic clatter of urgent commands, while outside, fragments of once proud vessels drifted like broken dreams across the void. Nova's eyes, steeled by grief and resolve, locked onto the holographic map that now displayed a critical enemy formation, Sarath Orion's flagship, the dark nucleus of the renegade fleet. Her heart pounded with the weight of every life lost, the hospital ship's tragic demise, the echoes of betrayed trust, and the silent screams of those yet to be saved. In that charged moment, the battle was no longer a clash of arms but a collision of convictions. A crackling voice burst through the comms, a measured, icy tone that cut through the static. "Commander Nova, your resistance is admirable but futile. Surrender your defenses and end this charade," Sarath declared. His words dripped with a cold certainty that stoked the flames of her inner turmoil. Nova's grip tightened on the console, each press of a button echoing her conflicted thoughts. Her mind raced with the impossible choice laid bare before her: launch a desperate countermeasure that would sacrifice her most vulnerable vessels, or allow Saratha's relentless barrage to claim more innocent lives. The bridge was bathed in the harsh red glow of emergency lighting, its stark illumination transforming every furrow of worry and every glistening tear into silent testimonies of sacrifice. Nova's voice, quivering with restrained determination, resonated over the channel. "Commander Orion, if you truly seek order, then witness the cost of your vision. I'm activating Operation Persephone, our diversion to cripple your command hub. This is our final stand to save what remains of our humanity." Her words were both a plea and a declaration, a last gambit to force Sarath into an inevitable confrontation that might yet tip the scales of war. For a suspended heartbeat, the bridge fell silent as the countdown began. The diversion was a plan born out of raw desperation. A fleet of battered vessels, earmarked for sacrifice, would race toward the enemy formation, drawing fire and creating a critical opening. Nova's eyes flickered between the glowing countdown and the display depicting the enemy's nerve center, a frail point in an otherwise impervious wall of strategy. In that frozen moment, the taste of burning fuel and the acrid tang of ionized metal filled her senses, each sensation amplifying the stakes of the decision. Faces of lost comrades and the haunting visage of the hospital ship's wreck danced behind her eyes, each memory a clarion call to act before more lives were consumed by the void. With a resolute exhale, she initiated the sequence. The diversion fleet surged forward, their fragile silhouettes set ablaze by enemy fire, forging a luminous, sacrificial path through the darkness. As the vessels plunged into the heart of the enemy formation, the cold echo of Saratha's laughter resonated across the channels, a chilling reminder of the ideological divide that separated them. In that moment, Commander Nova braced herself against the overwhelming tide of duty and despair, aware that the true cost of leadership was measured not just in the lives lost, but in the very soul of humanity. As the cosmic battle subsided into an uneasy silence, the Orion sector bore the scars of war like a wounded landscape. Dawn broke not with the warm promise of a new day, but with the cold, fractured light of distant stars struggling to pierce through a veil of smoldering debris. Commander Arya Nova stood on the bridge of her flagship, her gaze fixed on the panoramic viewport where the remnants of shattered vessels floated like ghosts in the void. The familiar hum of engines had dwindled to a mournful lullaby, and the sharp tang of ionized metal mixed with the bitter aftertaste of loss hung heavy in the recycled air. Nova's heart was a storm of conflicting emotions, relief at the temporary ceasefire, sorrow for every sacrifice, and a resolute determination to rebuild from the ruins. Around her, the bridge was cloaked in quiet activity. Officers moved with measured steps, tending to wounded crew members and cataloging the damage with a solemn efficiency that spoke to the gravity of their ordeal. "Report, Lieutenant," Nova asked softly, her voice a blend of exhaustion and steely resolve. Lieutenant Merrick, still bearing the weight of the day's losses, met her eyes with a mixture of hope and despair. "Commander, the diversion maneuver has bought us time. Our forces are regrouping, and enemy communications indicate a temporary withdrawal. It's a fragile peace, but it's there," he replied, his tone laced with cautious optimism. In the aftermath of the chaos, every echo and every flicker of light on the display panels told stories of both valor and the stark cruelty of war. Nova's mind wandered back to the sacrifices made, each fallen crew member, each ship sacrificed for the greater good, and the haunting memory of the hospital ship that had sparked this all-consuming conflict. Amid the soft beeps of diagnostic instruments and the muted conversations of those who still believed in the promise of peace, a somber reflection took root. Beyond the confines of the flagship, the space around them was strewn with debris and silent reminders of a battle fought with relentless fury. The once brilliant nebulae now appeared muted, as if grieving the loss of their luminous glory. Nova moved slowly toward the viewport, her eyes tracing the path of drifting fragments and scattered sparks, a chaotic mosaic of destruction that was slowly giving way to tentative hope. In a quiet corridor away from the fading echoes of conflict, Nova gathered with her closest officers. "We have witnessed the price of war, and our losses are irreplaceable," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. "Yet, in this fractured dawn, there is a chance to mend what has been broken. We must learn from these echoes of pain and forge a future that honors every sacrifice." The room was filled with a heavy silence, punctuated only by the soft rustle of uniforms and the distant hum of repair crews. Each face bore the marks of grief and resilience, a silent vow that even in defeat, there lay the seeds of a new beginning. Far away, in the command chamber of Commander Sarathorian, the tumult of his own making had stilled into a tense quiet. His calculated demeanor had cracked ever so slightly under the relentless scrutiny of his own conscience, a fleeting glimpse of vulnerability amid the rigid lines of strategy. Though his orders had set the cosmos ablaze, the cost of his vision was now unmistakably etched into the void. As Nova re-entered the bridge, the first tender rays of the new day began to filter through the viewport, casting a fragile glow over the battered fleet. It was a moment of stillness, of introspection, and of the dawning realization that even the deepest wounds could one day begin to heal. In that soft, uncertain light, Commander Nova embraced the duality of the moment, the grief for what was lost and the fragile spark of hope for what might yet be rebuilt. The battle was over, for now, leaving behind a legacy of sacrifice and hard-won wisdom. The cost of the conflict was undeniable, and the path to restoration would be steep and arduous. Yet, as the fractured dawn crept steadily across the starry expanse, it carried with it the quiet promise of renewal, the possibility of a future where the ideals of compassion and courage could rise once more from the remnants of war.